Greetings Internet, it's Dustin again with my HomeKit Home, bringing you all things Apple HomeKit, from news to product reviews to how-tos, just like this one. So if that's something that you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss out on any of our new videos as soon as they're released. While it might not seem like it, security cameras haven't really been around that long in HomeKit, beginning in 2017 with the now often overlooked D-Link Omno 180 indoor camera. Fast forward a few years and the camera landscape in HomeKit has changed dramatically. This due in very large part to HomeKit Secure Video. First introduced at WWDC 2019 as a flagship HomeKit feature for iOS 13 and seeing its initial rollout in iOS 13.2, HomeKit Secure Video, or HSV for short, aims to securely analyze security camera footage locally in order to provide users with a privacy-focused camera experience. HSV uses your home hub, including an Apple TV 4K or HD, a compatible iPad, or a HomePod or HomePod Mini to process and encrypt your data before it's sent to iCloud servers for analysis and or storage. This means that no one, not even Apple, actually has access to your footage. Now you may be asking yourself, what can HomeKit Secure Video do for me? And there are really four main points here. So the first of which is the ability to store recorded event footage for up to 10 days in iCloud. We also have the ability to get custom notifications based on people, animals, or vehicles that the camera detects, or we can really just set it to any sort of motion in general. We also have the ability to receive custom notifications based on facial recognition, which is a really cool feature. And then finally, we have the ability to select different activity zones for maybe some parts of the camera frame that we want to eliminate. So those are really the four main features of HomeKit Secure Video. A standout feature of HomeKit Secure Video specifically for HSV enabled video doorbells like the Logitech Circle View video doorbell is the ability to have your HomePod announce who's at the door based on the facial recognition feature. That's pretty cool. So there are a few things that we need in order to get started with HomeKit Secure Video, the first of which is an iPhone, iPod Touch, or an iPad running at least iOS 13.2. We'll need Apple's Home app as well as a supported iCloud storage plan, and we'll also need a Home Hub. So this can be either of the HomePods, it can be an iPad, or it can be an Apple TV HD or 4K. The final piece of the puzzle here is a HomeKit Secure Video camera, and we'll look at all of the options that are currently available here in a moment. As I mentioned before, we do need an iCloud storage plan, but we do need one of the paid tiers. The 200 gigabyte plan will give you support for one camera, whereas the 2 terabyte plan will give you support for up to 5 cameras. In either case, we do get 10 days of recordings, which do not count against your plan, and you also get access to all of the features that HomeKit Secure Video has to offer, which we'll be getting into shortly. But first, let's look at which cameras support HomeKit Secure Video. So just because a camera works with HomeKit doesn't mean that it works with HomeKit Secure Video. In 2020, we saw a huge increase in the number of cameras that support HomeKit Secure Video, including my personal favorite, the Acura G2H Camera Hub. Eufy added support for HomeKit Secure Video through a firmware update to their 2 and 2C wireless camera systems. It's worth noting that this applies to the base station, not to the individual cameras themselves. However, Eufy does have a couple of indoor cameras which are both independent of their base stations and HomeKit Secure Video compatible. HomeKit staple Eve has their Eve Cam, which is a HomeKit Secure Video exclusive, though it does have some extra features via the Eve for HomeKit app. Though it's still in beta, the Logitech Circle 2 camera was the very first camera to support HomeKit Secure Video. And building upon it, last year Logitech released their Circle View camera, which is a HomeKit Secure Video exclusive, much like the Eve Cam. Taking advantage of HomeKit software authentication, Atatmo retroactively brought HomeKit Secure Video to their welcome indoor cam as well as their present outdoor cam. Creating a bit of buzz at the tail end of 2020, Ecobee also took advantage of software authentication and brought HomeKit Secure Video to their smart camera. Boasting a very unique design, the Onvis C3 camera was one of the first to launch with HomeKit Secure Video right out of the box. HSV isn't just for cameras. There are a couple of video doorbells like the Robin Pro line full-size and compact versions, as well as the Logitech Circle View video doorbells that support it as well. So let's look at how standard HomeKit cameras are similar to HSV cameras. So on the left we have the Arlo Baby, which does not support HomeKit Secure Video, and on the right we have the Logitech Circle View, which does. Of course, along the top we have our picture-in-picture mode. We do have settings, which is different between the two forms of cameras in HomeKit, and we'll get into that more in a moment. We can also mute the audio on the top right there. Now here's a pro tip for you. If you tap on the name of the camera, it'll actually pull up all of the different cameras that you have in your HomeKit home, regardless if they are HomeKit Secure Video cameras or just standard HomeKit cameras. Front and center, of course, is our live feed, which can be expanded into landscape mode by rotating your device either left or right. We also have two-way audio, so if we tap on the talk button, we'll be able to communicate with who or whatever is on the other side of the camera, and we'll tap done whenever we have finished talking. Last but not least, by tapping on the grid icon at the bottom right, we do have quick access to accessories that are in the room that the camera is in, which is a pretty nifty feature. Alright, so now let's look at how to manage our HSV recording. So in Apple's Home app, you'll tap on the camera that is HSV compatible and that you've got set up. And you'll notice down at the bottom you have a timeline, and you can scrub through the last 10 days of recorded events by date, which is at the top, or down at the bottom through the different snapshots there. And we can tap the live button at the bottom right to quickly return to the live feed. And sharing your HSV video clips couldn't be any easier, so we'll tap on the share button at the bottom left. We'll select which of our HSV video clips we would like to share, either by date or by the snapshot at the bottom. We'll tap next and it brings up our share sheet. So here we have a variety of different options. We can do social media, we can do messages, email, iCloud Drive, really, any of the standard share options that you would have are here. So let's look at some of the HomeKit Secure Video settings, beginning with notifications. The first of which is the ability to allow a snapshot of the recorded event on the notification itself. We can also decide whether or not we want to be notified whenever our recording option status has changed, and we'll get into that here more in a moment. We can also decide whether or not we want to be notified whenever the camera goes offline, and we'll also receive a notification when it comes back online as well. And finally, we can decide whether or not we want notifications in general on this device. Now let's take a look at those recording options I mentioned earlier. Now there are 4 different options that we can choose from, both when we are home and when we are away. Now you may have seen this when you were first setting up your HSV camera, but you can go back and change those later if you'd like. The first recording option that we have is off. This means that no one can stream the camera's feed, nor will anything be recorded. It also means that the camera does not detect any activity and will not trigger or send any notifications. This is good if you have cameras indoors and you're not so comfortable with them being on while you're home. Alternatively, if you still want those notifications about whether people, animals, or vehicles are being detected by the camera, but maybe you're trying to save a bit on bandwidth or data, the detect activity option might be the one for you. We don't have access to the live stream, nor is anything recorded, but we will receive those notifications whenever the camera detects people, animals, or vehicles. But if you want to take it a step further and actually see in real time what's going on when you receive those notifications, and maybe even interact using two-way audio with whatever or whoever whoever's on the other side of the camera, then the stream option might be good for you. We don't have the ability to record anything, but we can see in real time what's going on with our cameras. Our last recording option is the full Monty, allow streaming and recording. This means that we get our notifications based on our detected activity, we have our live stream, and we have our recordings being stored in iCloud based on that detected activity. Speaking of detected activity, if we go back and select more options, here's where we can pick and choose what we actually want to be notified of. So it can be any motion that the camera detects, or it can be based upon people, animals, or even vehicles. We can also decide whether or not we want audio to be recorded, and here's where we actually have the ability to erase all of our recorded events in iCloud. Now let's look at a couple of key features that were added to HomeKit Secure Video in iOS 14, the first of which being face recognition. Essentially, this is your home hub analyzing your HSV camera feed whenever it detects a person, comparing that against tagged photos that you have, and then letting you know whether or not it thinks it's a person you know. Of course, we can toggle this on or off if we're not so comfortable with it, and as I mentioned before, it does recognize tagged faces from your photos library, or you can later add those in if you so desire. Now, we did go through how to do this specifically in our Logitech Circle View video, and we'll add a note to the iCard up above if you want to check that out. Now, alternatively, if we're not so comfortable tagging photos in our photos library, or we're not just comfortable sharing it there, we can use images that are detected by the camera itself and leave those kind of in the household, and it doesn't really go into your photos library. Again, we go through that in our Logitech Circle View video, so check that out if you want to know more details on going through that whole process. The second big feature that we got with HomeKit Secure Video in iOS 14 was activity zones. Essentially, this allows us to isolate different areas of the camera's frame in order to avoid unwanted notifications and recordings. So essentially what we do is we just tap on the camera's frame and draw out a activity zone. So we do this by simply connecting our dots. Of course, we can move our individual points there, left or right, up or down, however you would like, in order to really kind of focus in on that area. We also have the ability to create multiple zones, so if there are different areas of the frame that you want to focus on, we can do that as well. We also have the ability to invert those zones if that's something that you find useful. That's pretty easy to do there. By selecting one of our zones, we can also clear that zone, and that's how you can get rid of any of your zones. And the last thing I wanted to touch on in terms of HSV functionality are our status indicator dots. These are the dots to the right of the name of the camera. If that dot is gray, it means that the camera is in either off or detect activity mode. If it's in blue, it means that the camera is streaming. And if the dot is red, it means that the camera is actively recording. If you have recordings enabled, you may see a shift between blue and red dots depending on what the camera is doing. Now, if you do receive the dreaded no response indicator, my first piece of advice would be to maybe check to make sure that your camera actually has power. In my instance, more often than not, the camera has just been unplugged, but there are a host of other troubleshooting activities, which is a little bit beyond the scope of this video. And we've talked about the benefits and the features of HomeKit Secure Video, but now let's look at some of its shortcomings, because it's not all rosy. The first thing I want to point out here are the limitations of the iCloud storage plans. So as we talked about earlier, we do have to have a paid iCloud storage plan that can be either the 200 gigabyte plan, which will get you one camera, or the 2 terabyte plan, which gets you up to 5 cameras. That means that if you want more than 5 cameras, well, you're kind of out of luck. If you want 2 cameras, well, you're going to end up paying that price for the 2 terabyte plan, which is pretty limiting. So I'd like to see some more flexibility there. The second point I want to make in general is that HomeKit Secure Video is a paid subscription service. So while I completely understand that cloud storage isn't free, I am a bit concerned that we could potentially see HomeKit move from being a feature of iOS to a paid service like Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Fitness Plus, etc. And the last thing I wanted to point out here are the limitations in terms of resolution. So all HomeKit Secure video recordings and feeds are locked in at 1080p. This means that we're not able to downgrade the resolution if we want to save on bandwidth, but it also means that we're not able to increase the resolution even if the camera supports it, like some of the Eufy cams. So I did my best to cover every aspect of HomeKit Secure video, but if you still have any doubts or questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Also below the video in the description box, you'll find links to all of the things that we talked about in today's video, including all of the different HomeKit Secure video enabled cameras. So check that out. Also in the description box, you'll find links to our blog over at My HomeKit Home, as well as our social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at My HomeKit Home. As always, if you found today's video useful, you can let us and YouTube know by giving us a big thumbs up. It really does help out the channel and helps others find our content. If you're interested in more detailed reviews of HomeKit Secure video enabled cameras, I encourage you to check out one of these videos here. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as we will be looking at more HomeKit Secure video cameras in the future. And with all of that being said, I think we're done for today. I do thank you for watching, and until I see you in the next one, this has been Dustin with My HomeKit Home.